point out this dog and that dog and have the whole 9 yards. Occasionally I'd say, who's that dog? And she's like, I don't know, that's the stranger. But she used to get me to go to things that I probably would have never gone to, concerts and stuff. She got me to go see Carl Perkins in his last concert.
Oh, cool.
Sort of pushed me to go up and meet him. And I got to take photos of him and his son, and he asked me to send them to him, and it ended up, he was in the hospital dying, and he got the photos, and he actually wrote me a handwritten letter to thank me for doing that. Sort of nice, but she couldn't really tolerate bad music.
She was good.
She had a good music sense. And I remember one time she talked me into doing like a half-ass road trip to Reno, and she loved to go visit like old retro places and tacky motels and things like that. Somehow that was like the Americana for her. But we were in some tacky casino going for the buffet breakfast, and as we were waiting in this 45-minute line, there was like the worst country band in the world up on stage, and they were playing like Okie from Muskogee, like out of tune and out of key, and the drummer was playing on the wrong beats, and she's like, oh my God, we gotta listen to this for 45 minutes. And I looked over, and in the very far background, I heard like a couple bells ringing on the slot machines, and I'm like, do you have any coins? Maybe if I put it in the slot machine, get lucky, the band will stop playing. And she dug in her pockets, all she had was a nickel. So I took the nickel and put it in the slot machine and won the biggest jackpot ever. $300 in nickels and buckets and the bells and sirens went off, and the band had to stop playing and take a break, and by the time we finished and carried these buckets of nickels into the casino, we were like, oh God, this is the luckiest thing in the world. We didn't have to listen to the band. And then we went and spent all the nickels in the Topaz Lodge Casino. Another sort of tacky place on Highway 395. But it was sort of an event-filled trip because I had a '69 Barracuda that actually had really low mileage, but it couldn't make it over the mountains. It broke down in Levine, and Viv had the sort of initiative enough to go out, and there was like a group of Native American kids out there playing sort of like, what's wrong with your car? I'm stopped in the middle of the street dead in the water. And she cajoled them all into pushing the car like a mile and bribed them out with ice creams at the store. I'll give all you kids ice creams if you push the car. And the car was stuck for 3 days. To make a long story short, with a mechanic who we later learned at the local coffee shop was named Almost, because he was almost a mechanic. He screwed that car up royally, and I never had the confidence to take it anywhere else after that. But she, she always had my back through thick and thin. And at one point, her best friend Kathy King put herself through law school and started a private investigative firm, and then she hired Viv and then later myself to be her assistant investigators. And we did everything from like, murder investigations to I did like price fixing by Mobil Oil, and had to talk myself into the CEO's house to tell the people who were going to bug him where to put the bugs. Actually, they won. They forced a lot of gas stations into fixing their prices so that the poor gas station guys lost money. But to make a long story short, she was with Kathy down, I think it was in San Luis Obispo, on some, I don't know, end of a murder investigation. And this guy at the bar started putting the moves on her. And she's, was trying to push him off because the job was to sort of sit there and surveil the people at the bar and listen to the conversations. And this guy was like so insistent. He's like, well, I want to take you out to dinner, and let's have a date, and I'm going to go to San Francisco, and blah blah blah. Well, it turns out she went on a date with Joe Biden's brother.
Oh my God!
Who's later, I guess, he had his own issues and problems, but he had some, prize inside information about the family that he spread to her. But, she backed me up on a lot of things and helped me out. She did my taxes, at points for years because I was sort of like, not into all the nuts and bolts and everything, and I always trusted her. She took incredible care of her dogs. She loved those dogs, and the dogs sort of forced her to get out of the house as well and go into the neighborhood, and all the neighborhood people she loved, like Chuck was sort of like her father figure in a way. Chuck always used to help her out and did everything for her, and it was good. He was always there for people, and her friend Betty Rose, was a very good friend of hers, and I tried when she died. I was bugging her for probably a couple of weeks to take her to the hospital. And she refused. No, it's okay. I have doctor appointments coming up, blah, blah, blah. And I guess on the final day when I tried to call her up to see when the appointment was so I could give her a ride, she never answered. And that was it. Immediately, people came, and some of the people here put flowers out for her, and that was really nice. Meanwhile, as she grew up, she had Tara, and we were roommates at the time, sharing a house, and I said, well, if you're going to have a kid, I'm going to have some say over how this kid grows up, because I don't want some screaming brat in the house. And so I sort of became Tara's, like, de facto dad. And as Tara puts it, I taught her to walk, how to talk, how to ride a bike, how to swim, all of the above. And, she sort of forced me into situations, like Tara had a birthday party at the zoo and invited all of her elementary school friends and their mothers to the zoo, and it was a complete fiasco. The kids were screaming and running everywhere, and I eventually took them off to the bird house, and they were a little scared with the big birds with the big beaks going past, and I just said, if you kids don't shut up, I'm going to keep you in this birdhouse. You can see your parents again. By the time the kids came back, the parents are like, wow, you really know how to work with kids. But sort of had to crack the whip. But Viv was one of the few people I'd ever known who'd seen the Beatles live and the Rolling Stones and all of the above. As a kid, I guess her dad, used to take her places. Francine would probably know more about that. But
Beatles.
She was always like a musical person, was a very good singer, played guitar for years. In her last years, I helped her out. I lent her instruments to play just to keep her amused, and she really enjoyed that. And she always was like the strongest mother for her daughter, and she loved her grandkids so much. And it's a sad thing to see her go. I always thought she was going to outlive me by years. She had my back through 2 life-threatening illnesses and helped me out, and I'll miss her.
Thank you, David.